plan, for example, would be one way to bring people from all over Newberry County together around a certain program or a certain goal that they may be enthusiastic about. But just thinking about creating reasons or networks that are countywide to help people see the picture at the county level rather than always talking about it from the community. And I know as the county council, y'all hear a lot about the individual communities. We also see an opportunity to be strategic about growth. You're certainly poised for a lot of growth, and I know there's been a lot of interest indicated. And I think that when that growth is sort of on the cusp, can make people nervous. Some people aren't sure that that's the path that they want. And so just creating structures and dialogues and processes that make that growth happen in a way, again, that the whole county feels connected. And then I'll just go through these and say, communicating once you have a strategic plan that's been adopted, talking to people about how the actions that you're taking or the things that you're foregoing, that they derive from these strategies that we've talked about together as a community, we've talked about as a council. And so just really keeping the plan in the forefront and reminding people why you are or are not taking certain steps, and that they do derive from the plan. And goal 5 is really almost an internal one for your economic development strategy. I don't know if I said this, but we did interview people from across the state, peer economic development organizations, folks from South Carolina Commerce, and we just heard a lot of great things about Newberry. I know they have a lot of confidence in bringing clients here. You have a reputation of living up to the promises that you make during a marketing proposal, and so we really see that as an asset and something that you should leverage and continue to maintain and to support. And so being seen as a leader in local economic development in the state of South Carolina, we think is a worthwhile goal. And so now I'm going to scroll backwards through the magic of PowerPoint, and I'm going to go a little bit slower and just say, the first goal, we really wanted to stress small businesses. I will say the Small Business Administration federally considers a small business to be 500 or fewer employees. And so I know when we say small business, some of you may run businesses, in a small rented space, or maybe even from your home. And so there's a wide profile of what that might be. But we do see it as a huge opportunity for economic success in Newberry County. Anybody have any feedback or questions about supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs? And then the second goal is about talent. Again, making sure that as you are developing economic development strategies, whatever they are, say entrepreneurship, that you're also drawing a line back to your talent pipeline, maybe thinking about how the school system can incorporate entrepreneurship education into the public schools would be a way to draw a line back to talent. And again, a series of strategies to think about supporting and aligning your talent with your economic development goals. I feel like I want to say something outrageous just to try to get somebody to, but I see the press is here, so I won't do that. And then thinking about this being an attractive location where people want to come there, there's space available that makes sense for them, and there's amenities, drawing points that make this attractive for residents and visitors. And then building up the capacity of the community to act. And here again, we're thinking, explicitly at the county level. So, creating some forums for dialogue. We're not talking about an organization, but just more county-wide conversations. And then finally, this goal of being seen, being recognized as a leader in economic development in South Carolina.
I truly like the idea of making sure that the school district is involved in helping a lot of the students that's in Newberry stay in Newberry.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think with that, if some of the businesses that we have here in Newberry now would be more involved in the school district.
That's exactly right. A lot of times businesses will open up if you were calling on them or checking in with someone from your community. They would start telling you how difficult it is to hire.
Right.
And so then, you might say, well, what are you doing to raise awareness of your industry or the occupations that you're
Right.
having trouble filling? And how are we helping? It really does start probably with middle schoolers, helping them see the pathway. And it could be, career nights at the middle schools where local businesses are there, all the way up to, maybe certified apprenticeship programs for high school
Right.
students.
We do have our career center out here, so utilize it more to help get the students involved in the job paths for them.
That's what I was going to say. We do have a career center. I know they have different things that they offer from, they usually build a house every year.
Yes.
Or I think they offered some welding and some different things. Maybe they need to help get involved with what they need or what the community needs, but also Piedmont Tech has helped us too. They've offered some robotics classes and things to meet the type of industry we're getting in our area. So we've already started some of these things. We just need to keep and expand on them, and because Piedmont Tech will offer to the community what we need.
Exactly.
They've already proven that. So.
And in my experience, schools like Piedmont Tech are so welcoming of employers when they will give their time or get engaged, because they want to make sure that what they're teaching, what they're telling students and prospective employees, that it's accurate about the industry. And so, anything we can do to get more employers engaged in your talent pipeline. And I'm sorry I didn't mention Piedmont Tech. That's another huge asset that, again, if you don't have that in your community, it's not like you can just say, well, strategy 5, get a good college.
Right.
So you really are in a good position in talent. Well, if there's not any more questions, and I'll ask Rick to interrupt me if I get this out of sync. Again, it's your county's plan, and so this is all up to you all. But we'll be standing by for input from you all. It is kind of a lengthy document, and we hope that you may have questions or feedback, which we're standing ready to incorporate and respond to. And then we had targeted February 15th. I think Rick has said that's to be determined, but sometime in February, we would hope to finalize this draft and have a usable document for you all to adopt and then launch. And I'll just say, we've really enjoyed working here. It's really a very dynamic and fascinating community from end to end, and just congratulate you. Yes,
Let
ma'am.
me add to that, Newberry College has helped too. They've put a nursing program and building a building right now for that. So we've got some great things going on all over the community.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something I've got a question about. You indicated earlier that we had 4,000 out commuters going to work. That means every industry has talked about a need for workforce, a qualified workforce. So if I could ask the committee, maybe you've already kind of added some intelligence to that 4,000, break it down by management, skill set, some kind of further delineation so that we would know kind of what group to target to pull them to have a business or industry so we could keep those people in the county instead of leaving the county. So 4,000 is a bad number for us, but it doesn't in and of itself tell us quite what we would need to know to target and focus on something.
Yes, sir. And Rick and I, actually, we rehashed that number this week, and I believe that 4,000 is net. And so there's actually a larger number that actually leaves the county, and then a smaller number than that comes in. And so when we netted it, 4,000 was the net out commuting. But we'll see if we can get you some more detail around those out commuters. And again, when you're marketing to companies, you know, most people don't enjoy a commute. And so I would think of those folks as available to be captured by the right employer. It could be a growing small business, or it could be somebody that you recruit to your county. Yes, sir.
Also on that same side, it had labor shed, it had 100,000. What does that number indicate that was on that slide?
Do you mean the geography of it, or what kind of people those 100,000 are?
Right. What's that number based on? Is it people from the surrounding area that we could bring into the county?
That's right. It was a drive time that was sort of mapped, so not just a county, but an irregular area. And then we counted the people, and without looking at it, I'm gonna say I bet it is only people like over 21. It probably doesn't include, children and students, and so it's probably like a working age population in that commuting shed.
Okay.
And again, for a place like Newberry, it's very important because, a lot of places just market their county boundary, but I think you can really take advantage of your environment. And
That would be people like within a 45-minute to hour drive.
I don't believe it was that far.
Yeah, well, there's the 30-minute drive time.
Yeah, let me
45-minute drive
take my
time,
glasses off.
1-hour drive time. The longest, most realistic distance that workers will continually commute is about 45 minutes. Does that mean that nobody ever commutes in an hour? Of course not. But that 45-minute drive time encompasses, if you dropped a pin in Newberry, then it would encompass from here basically to the north end of Lawrence County, well into Richland and Lexington counties. The bulk of that population, of course, would come from western Lexington and Richland counties, which is where the population is amassed. So, yeah, it's basically a 45-minute drive time. The workforce within the 1-hour drive time, the metro, which actually goes almost all the way up to Greenville and all the way on the other side of Columbia, that's more like 400,000. But, it's not realistic that we would get a commuter who comes from eastern Richland County and does that every day. I did it from Sumter, and it was a 90-minute commute, and that was just too much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Anybody else? Well, again, I thank you all very much for your time tonight. I don't know if maybe Rick will close us out.
Thank you, Penny. We really appreciate all the hard work you've done. And yes, we had a robust debate on the commuter numbers earlier this week. And one thing to elaborate on your point, when I'm talking to a new industry and the inevitable question comes up, where am I going to get workers? I point to several things, but I don't point to the unemployment rate, because that's probably not where you're going to get your workers. You're going to get your workers by A, taking them from other employers, B, tapping that commuter pool. Everybody would much rather commute less. And so the people who move out of the county every single day to a job, that is a pool of workers that's ripe for the targeting. And then there's the underemployed. Underemployment rates typically are somewhere around 16 to 18%. So about 1 out of every 5 workers in a community is not really happy with his station in life and considers himself underemployed and would consider taking a new job. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation on the introduction of the strategic plan. I'm glad to answer any questions that council might have at this point. You do have some time to absorb this and think about it. If council wanted a work session between now and next month, we'd gladly do that. However council wants to handle that, we will get you answers and make sure that your input is involved. I also want to offer you the opportunity, Dr. Boyd Parr is the spokesman for the group, so if you have any questions for Dr. Parr, he is available as well.
Any questions from anyone?
Excellent
All right.
job.
Thank you.
Outstanding presentation. It's going to be a lot to digest, so we can be fluid once we start trying to get some of it digested as far as whether we need to have a work session or something along those lines. So it's a rather large document.
It
so
is. And we're almost done with the easy part. The hard part, of course, is going to be implementation of the plan, sticking to the plan, and making sure we work towards the goals for that. You know, the economic development organizations all over the country have dusty strategic plans on their shelves, and we wouldn't have gone through this just to create a plan that we ignore. And there, quite honestly, there's some things that are in that plan that make me a bit anxious. Things like small business support and entrepreneurship. That's something that I'm going to have to really collaborate and strategize with other partners to make a meaningful impact on that. Now, we've always had a role, and we serve as advisors. People call us all the time. I get the call probably once a week. Where do I get a business license? And of course, I tell them, well, you don't really need a business license as long as you're in the unincorporated parts of the community. I think we're up to this challenge, and I think we can implement this plan in a way that's meaningful in the long term. And of course, the idea of this is that at the end of the day, it's all about improving quality of life, not just the business community. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely, Dr. Park.
First off, on behalf of the whole task force, we want to thank you for this opportunity. It's been an educational experience. The task force members have been very engaged in bringing different perspectives in. Hopefully, as you study this, you will see little elements that we have influenced. One of the common themes I think we saw is Newberry is a very attractive place, and we want a planned economic development that doesn't lose what attracted people here in the first place in its development. And some of the things Rich reflected, the attention to our existing businesses in addition to the large new people coming in and developing the diversity and valuing who we are some of the elements we discussed among many. But we thank y'all for the opportunity, and I think you'll see our influence in small and big ways when you read the document.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parr. If council will indulge me, if there's anybody else that was on the committee that would like to speak, we would certainly like to give you the opportunity to do so. Hearing none, we'll continue forward with public comments. Ms. Barbara Miller signed up for public comments. Did you have anything you want to speak to us about, Ms. Miller?
Some parts of this plan.
Would you mind coming up to the microphone for me, please, ma'am?
There are parts of the plan that mention making use of the Small Business Development Center as a resource for growing some of the very small businesses and helping existing ones expand. Some of you may know that for the past 3 or 4 years, I have been the local representative and consultant available to do that. I resigned from that position the end of September because of my involvement in other civic activities and have not yet been replaced. I had a conversation just today with my former regional manager and spoke not too long ago with the state director, Michelle, and they are posting that job. But as you heard, getting help is difficult. We're going to explore some different avenues to post the job application. As you may know about small business development centers, they are generally supported across the country by their lead universities, and that's true for South Carolina as well. My position is supported by the University of South Carolina, so it's posted on their job board, which isn't very helpful in reaching out to our community to find someone like myself. So we are in the process of expanding that job search, if you will. But I felt like if you saw it in the plan and wondered if I was still working there, I am not. I am desperately seeking my replacement. So I hope, actually, I know Mr. Johnson, I know some of your constituents and have worked with them on their businesses. Some of the others have worked with people all over the county in the past 4 years and seen a lot of business startups, a lot of expansions, and of course, for 2 years, an awful lot of funds directed to these businesses from the pandemic. Matter of fact, in 2020, it was over $500,000, and again, in 2021 it was. So I feel like that position brings a lot of value to the county, and if you know of somebody who is interested in that position, they can go to the University of South Carolina Job Board or contact me for the new leads. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, and it's certainly a desperately needed position in our community, so we will certainly have that in our thoughts and prayers to find the right person. Anybody else?
Something that took me by surprise was that a small business is 500 or less, and I think of a small business as
Right.
Not what I
1 to
think of.
10, or not what I think of. So we do help those because we've done a lot of fee and lieu and different things. We do help them, but the smaller, you know, we don't hear anything out of those small businesses. So.
And I won't repeat much, but y'all have heard me say this a million times. I think those are the heartbeat of a community.
Yeah.
Small business is just huge to a development of a community and the things that go on, so absolutely. Comments from our acting county administrator. We'll call down the roll for comments from council. Mr. Shealy?
Good work, we'll appreciate it, we'll digest it and get back with it.
Mr. Cease?
Excellent job. I was at some of the meetings and good input from the community to help you develop this plan and come together with it. Excellent plan.
Ms. Edwards?
I've kind of voiced some of my opinion, but I do want to thank the committee members that helped and the community members that came to the meetings and helped. And for the final product, we'll look at it and make it final after this draft, but I appreciate it. It's a good plan.
Reverend Scurry?
Keep the good work up. We're on your side.
Mr. Reader?
Yeah, I think that it was a great job because the committee had a lot of different people from different aspects to bring in totally good ideas, and I appreciate everything that y'all did, and keep up the good work.
Mr. Hipp?
Well, your work is basically finished and our work has begun. So what you've given us is a great document, and I think with Rick's help and our Economic Development Department and the Economic Development Committee of Council, that we'll be able to go through that document and try to prioritize those items as far as the timeline as well as overall importance and what we can do. So that's going to be our job, is to get those things in order and implement them. And like Rick says, we don't need a dusty document.
Amen. Too much invested in it for it to be a dusty document. So I will refrain from repeating what they've said. To go back to my college paper writing days, IBIT. We do appreciate the work and are just so grateful for those of you who gave so much time. Having said that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Ms. Airwood, second by Mr. Shealy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor by show of hands. Opposed likewise. That motion carries unanimously. We will stand adjourned until time for our 6 o'clock regular meeting.